Boys and girls, today we're going to create a faux stained glass tree. Faux means fake, but let's take a look at some real stained glass windows. I'm sure you've seen them. They are often found inside of churches, and they allow the light to shine in, showing through the beautiful shades and tints of glass. Let's talk about how a real stained glass window is made. A real stained glass window is made by first tracing a pattern, tracing it right onto the pieces of glass, which are then cut. An artist carefully cuts and pops out each piece of glass, making sure they accurately fit inside of all the parts of the artist's pattern. Once all of the pieces of glass are cut and they fit, then the artist has to connect them, but not with glue. The artist has to cut strips of lead. The lead has grooves in it, and the grooves help to hold the glass in place. But each one of those pieces of lead has to be cut to a certain size to fit each separate piece of glass. As you can imagine, this kind of artwork takes a lot of time and focus. Once the artist has cut out each piece of glass and fit them in place with each piece of lead, then the artist must adhere the pieces of lead together, especially at the joints where the two parts come together. For that, the artist must melt a little bit of lead with a method called soldering on both the front and the back. But when the artist is finished and has added a little bit of burnishing sander to help hold things in place, then once the artist is finished, he or she is left with a beautiful stained glass window. Before you dive into designing your faux stained glass tree, what you'll want to do is plan out your idea. So I've got a couple of ideas. These are my sketches of different kind of tree designs that I came up with. So I thought I'd share them with you. Maybe it will inspire you. You could do a tree that's more whimsical, one that doesn't quite look realistic. If you decide you want to make it into a holiday tree, you can add just a touch of decorations. But remember, this is going to be something that you could have in your home all year. If it's definitely a holiday tree, well, then you could only enjoy it during one time of year. So you might want to be thinking about making it just a regular pine tree with kind of a broken up or a designed background. Maybe one that indicates that it's winter with a little bit of snow around the edge. And I also wanted it to have different design patterns in the background. Think about the different shapes. Sometimes artists like to use repetition, so I was using a repetition of a curved line. So as you're coming up with your ideas, you might notice that one idea will give you thoughts for another idea. And by the time you've come up with your final design, it will probably be the very best of the best. So it helps to sketch out several different designs, not just draw and stick with one. So you're going to have a sheet of paper that's been folded in half like this. And if it's not, you can fold it in half again. And then once more, and it's going to give you 8 sections on your paper, and they're very long and skinny sections. This size and shape will mimic the bigger sheet of paper that you have. And using a pencil, I want you to start thinking about how you can design your tree for your faux stained glass. So I think I'm going to keep in mind that I want my stained glass tree up all year long. So I'm not going to make it a Christmas or a holiday tree. So first I'm going to think about the shape of the tree, which I'm going to start with a triangle. I'm drawing nice and dark so you can see. Once I've got that triangle shape, I can leave it this shape. I could make it a very simple design, but because you're going to be using chalk and filling in shapes with chalk, you will want to break up your space. So I think I'll break up the space with a zigzag line. If somebody was using stained glass, they would be breaking up the space with different pieces of glass. So usually when a stained glass artist works, they work with geometric shapes, shapes that are not rounded very often, but usually much much more straight. I'm trying to create a background. Maybe this will be an evening time, and I'm going to go ahead and use a crescent shape and mine, but again, to break up the background, maybe I'll use a different line design so that visually it isn't the same as the ground. It's something different. All right, so that gave me an idea for this one. I think I want this one to be maybe a little bit more organic in shape. So maybe instead of these hard edges, I can use shapes that are a little bit more curved and rounded. Organic shapes are shapes that can be found in nature. So again, this isn't a very realistic looking tree, but it's a lot different in style than this one. It helps to do several different kinds of styles when you're sketching because you never know what kind of ideas you might get. Maybe this is going to be the sun setting behind my tree, so I can draw lines that are like rays of the sun. When you draw your lines need to go from wherever they're starting all the way to the edge because you're going to be filling these shapes in with chalk. So if you have an open shape like that, it's not going to give you a definite space to keep your chalk. So you need to go ahead and fill in those shapes. Once you've come up with a bunch of different sketches, you don't even have to fill your whole page, but at least a bunch of different ideas, and you have found one that you really like, then you're ready to start adding that design to your large sheet of paper. The problem with drawing on such a large piece of paper is now the scale or the size is much bigger. Sometimes it's tricky to translate or have a small drawing translate or be transformed onto a large sheet of paper. So what you might want to do is this. I like to practice draw with my finger a couple of times first so I can kind of get an idea for the placement. I know I want my drawing to be nice and large. I know I want all of my shapes to be enclosed because I will be using them for chalk, so I can't have any open shapes. They have to be completely enclosed. So I need to kind of plot and plan so that I don't spend a lot of time drawing and then erasing. I'm going to do my sketching with my finger first. The tree I am doing is I'm going to do this tree. So what I need to do is decide what size, I'm going to go ahead and slide this under here so I can get really close and see what size I want that triangle to be. I know I want to make everything kind of large, but I also see that I need a little room at the top. Once I feel like I have the right size for my tree, or if I was doing shapes, the shape parts of my tree, then I can start to sketch it in. And when I sketch, I'm drawing lightly. That way, if I draw anything I don't like, I can always go back and erase. Now, I do want this one to be a little bit of a whimsical kind of tree. So I'm going to curve some of the edges and make it a little different than how I have it here, because I like some of the spirals I had in that drawing right there. All right, so I think that this will be a nice big size because I want my tree to be the most important thing in my work of art. In fact, I'm actually going to draw with a black marker, not because I want you to do that, but because I want you to be able to see. So let me get a black Sharpie so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm actually going to draw this much bigger than what it originally appeared in my sketch, because my sketch was a smaller scale. The emphasis is on the tree, so I'm going to really focus on that. I'm creating smaller sections within my tree because we have to have those shapes. And I did like the designs I drew inside the tree. When you use your black glue to draw the designs, the black glue tends to spread. So you'll want to keep your lines kind of far apart. We're not focusing on tiny details with this drawing. You want to keep things a little bit on the bigger side. That's actually kind of narrow. And in fact, I think I'm just going to finish it with that right there. So now I have all my shapes are enclosed. My tree is nice and big. And I also have lines that aren't too close together. I did like the spiral kind of line at the top, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that, but I think I wanted it to curl a little more. That's getting a little tight, so I don't want to get any more narrow than that. And I'm just going to make these lines get a little bigger, making sure that I always have shapes that are enclosed. Maybe I'll add a couple more here. Remember, you're drawing this with a pencil, and it helps to plot and plan with your finger first. Okay, I'm liking the way this is looking. And once you're finished with your drawing, and you've double-checked and made sure that all of your shapes are enclosed, you don't have anything hanging open like I have here at the bottom of my tree. Everything has to be enclosed. Once you have a design that you're happy with, then we're ready to start adding the black glue. Now that you're finished, you're ready to use some black glue. When you use your black glue, the trick is making sure that, first of all, the cap is closed when you do this. And I just shook it once to drop all of the paint and the black glue down. And once you've done that, then go ahead and twist it open all the way and then listen for it to breathe. And once it's breathing, then you're ready to go. If it's not breathing, however, that means it's got a stuffed up nose, and just like a regular glue bottle, you'd have to pick off the dried glue. I find it really helpful to have a testing piece of paper. So get a testing piece of paper because this stuff comes out faster than puffy paint. If you use puffy paint, you know that you have to follow the same steps of testing it first. This is testing paper only. Don't waste your black glue or your puffy paint on this. So now my job is to go over all of my lines with the black glue. When I get to the end of the paper, I'm trying not to let glue get on the surface of the table. Otherwise, this artwork will glue itself to the table. So you want to stop a little bit before you get there. I have the nozzle or the tip of the glue bottle a little bit above my paper. I don't want it to touch my paper because if it does, it will not give my artwork a nice raised line. Now, I'm not going to kid you when I say that it takes a little bit of work to get all these lines done. It also might make your hand a little bit tired. So what I have found is helpful is to every now and then just kind of take a break from squeezing the glue bottle and then go right back. When you start to add your color, you're going to be using chalk. Chalk is different from oil pastels. Oil pastels have oil in them and pigment. Crayons have wax and pigment. Pigment, by the way, is another word for color. It has nothing to do with pigs. Chalk is mostly pigment, which is why it's very dusty. But the fabulous thing about chalk is its ability to smear. So when you're using chalk, you can use warm colors and you can use cold colors. You don't have to pick one or the other. However, the way you're going to know what colors to use is you're going to use this handy dandy thing that's called a color wheel. It's called a color wheel because it's shaped like a wheel and it has color on it. Go figure. You're going to use this color wheel to determine what colors to use in each section of your work of art. you're going to use something that are called analogous colors. Analogous colors are colors that sit beside each other on the color wheel. For example, if I decide I want to use green for parts of my tree, then I can use colors that are right next to the green on the color wheel. I could use light green. I could use yellow if I'm heading in this direction. Actually, I don't have a true yellow. Let's see if this one, there we go. I could use those 3 colors. 3 colors per section is perfect. However, I could have went this way as well. So I could use dark green, and then I could also use turquoise blue or dark blue in a section. No more than 3 colors in each section. So if I'm going to use those colors, let's say I'm going to use it in this section. Those are my 3 analogous colors, colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. I can color a little bit with my dark green. The cool thing about chalk is it doesn't have to be filled in all the way. I'll show you why in a moment. Then I can switch to my other analogous color, the other color that's next to that one on the color wheel. And then maybe I'll switch to my last one. Now, once those colors are on there, I want to blend them in. And to do that, I am not going to take my finger and smear all of it at once, but I massage one color at a time using a small circle. So my finger is making a small circle, and I'm going to overlap the green with the blue. But now my finger is mostly green, so I'm going to switch to a new finger and just massage the blue so that it stays nice and true to its color and it doesn't turn all green. Overlap a little bit, and then switch to, look at my beautiful fingers, switch to a new finger for the blue, and that helps to keep my colors nice and true. Now I had my colors, I colored them horizontally. I could have made them dark green, light blue, and dark blue vertical also. It's totally up to you. I think I'm going to do another part of my tree. I really liked this color combo that I picked out a moment ago. So, where was that yellow? So I think I'll use those 3 for this section. So for each section, you can pick a different combination of your 3 analogous colors, colors that sit right next to each other on the color wheel. You don't even have to do them in a particular order. You can mix and match them a little bit. I actually think this is an art stick, so I'm going to set that aside. That was not a piece of chalk. So an art stick is like a color pencil, so that's probably not going to blend, but we'll see. Now your fingers are going to get dirty, so you'll probably want to get a tissue and wipe them off or go to the sink and wash them, because if I rub those colors on here, it's going to make all those dark and lose their color. But this one I see is dark green, so I'm massaging in a little circle. And then I'll switch to maybe my pinky, and I'm going to bring that light blue up because that yellow was an art stick, so it was not moving. All right, so for the background, I want to have some contrasting colors. I don't want to continue using the same color palette or using these same colors. I want my tree to stand out. So for that reason, I'm going to have to think a little bit differently. Do I want this to be a snowy background? If I do, then I will want to use blue, but instead of using these colors, maybe I'll go in this direction for the color wheel. That way I can bring in some purple into what I'm working on for my background. And anytime you want to use white to make your colors light, that would work too. I actually really like the way this looks. Maybe I'll save these colors for my sky. So if I use some yellow for my sun and my sky, I could go this direction for the sun rays. I probably won't go that direction. All right, so once again, I'm picking 3 colors. White does not count as a color, so feel free to use that in your mix. I think I will use that in, make sure that this is a piece of chalk. So I'm going to use this maybe in this large section. So I'm going to use my purple. Once again, because it's chalk and because it's mostly dusty, I can massage the colors in so I don't have to fill them in completely. Was going to use this dark blue, but here's the thing about dark colors. Dark colors tend to push things back, and I want my land to look like it's coming forward. So instead of using this dark blue, which will be odd that I have this land that's going back into space when I want it to look like it's coming towards you, I think I'll switch to light blue and white. Whew, boys and girls, that took a while, but I'm really excited with how it looks, and I know yours will be even more amazing. Remember to use that color wheel. Make sure to use colors that are analogous, and make sure to always have your fingers kind of sort of cleanish, because that'll keep your colors clean. If you have to blow the chalk off of your paper, make sure you turn away from your buddies. All right, guys, let's get